Did you know that at one time the only avenue available for mental health patients was to be locked away in an asylum where you were left with no rights and subject to untold abuse by those who were charged with your care? That all changed because of the courage of a woman named Nelly Bly, who went undercover for 10 days in an insane asylum, long before women even had the right to vote and were still considered the property of the men in their lives. Born Elizabeth Jane Cochran in Pennsylvania in 1864, Nelly lived at a time when women were meant to serve their families and keep their opinions to themselves. But at just 18 years old, Nelly wrote a fiery piece to the Pittsburgh Dispatch in response to an editorial that claimed women's highest calling was their domestic duties and working women were a monstrosity. The editor liked what she wrote so much that he hired her as a journalist. Adopting the pen name Nelly Bly, she wrote pieces highlighting the abhorrent treatment of women and advocating for their rights. In 1887, she moved to New York and began working for the New York World, where one of her first assignments was to report on suspicious activity in mental institutions. In order to do a researched article on the conditions within these facilities, Nelly pretended to be a mental patient and was admitted to the mental institution on Blackwell Island, where she lived for 10 days. The horrors Nelly uncovered and wrote about spearheaded sweeping legislation, which included more funds allocated for mental health, increasing the doctor-to-patient ratio, and more supervision of the doctors and nurses overseeing their care. Nelly spent the rest of her journalism career writing hard-hitting investigative pieces, exposing corruption in jails, factories, and political institutions. In 2015, Timothy Hines released the movie 10 Days in a Madhouse, based on the autobiographical book of Nelly's account of her time in the mental institution. Nelly died on January 27, 1922, 2 years after women were granted the right to vote. She was 57 years old.